Welcome back to another Minecraft Conquest Reforged video. Kinder Knight here, and as promised in the last episode, we are back here at Knightly Castle to finally check out and tour the interiors of this castle here. I'm really excited to show you guys what I was able to do with this, and now this will be a bit of a longer video as interior tours usually are. So I'm not going to waste any more time, and we're going to go ahead and jump into this and get on with this tour. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and head on over, and we're going to make our way up these stairs to the first main level of the castle. So we're going to go ahead and open these doors. So now we come to what I like to think of as a kind of a waiting room or area, whereas the Lord's house servant would allow a visitor in here, then that servant would leave that visitor here while they go and fetch the Lord of the castle and inform him of a visitor. Whereas the Lord then can choose to grant an audience or not. Ideally, if the Lord does decide to see his visitor or visitors, the house servant would then escort the guests and they would be allowed to enter into this area here. I like to think of this chamber here as it kind of takes the place of a throne room. It works as a formal meeting area where again, the Lord could receive his guests or maybe a courier with a message for him. So the Lord has this nice comfy area to sit with this really neat fireplace design right here in the middle that I use quite a bit in this particular build. I feel it works really well and it saves a lot of space and it gives a new different perspective when it comes to room design, because particularly we design a room setup around where the fireplace is anchored, and so this design kind of gives me the chance to change up the flow of the room a bit. And now, keeping to a theme of splendor, we have some furnishings here with a cabinetry for some storage. And over here we have this sitting area with a chessboard, which is mainly for decorational purposes because the Lord of Knightly Castle really wants to project prestige. Prestige and opulence is kind of the theme for this castle. And as we move on through this castle, I'm sure you guys will notice. So as we move on into this next area here, we come into a smaller but more intimate greeting hall. So now if you are an invited guest or a person of noteworthy position, you would be allowed or invited into this particular chamber. Whereas the Lord could maybe invite you to a game of chess. And also with this nicely decorated table here where the castle servants could set out food and drink for you to enjoy. Just really trying to solidify the luxuries his home allows him to portray to his visitors. Then maybe those visitors could be like, well maybe this guy is worth something. Maybe it'd be a good idea to be friends or perhaps allies with him. At least that's the idea behind it. And now as we move on into the next chamber here, we've come into the Lord's family's personal dining hall. And now another thing that this castle lacked is a great big feasting hall where the Lord could invite, ideally very important people, other higher ranking lords, where he could try to wine them and dine them and gain their favor all at once. His castle limits him in that regard, but he does have this smaller, more intimate dining area where he could maybe invite one or two lords over to share a meal, whereas then he could better spoil them because he could really splurge on the best of everything without the fear of going broke feeding a crowd of guests. And being a lesser lord, and this being the family's first castle, they really need to make do with the resources they have. So what does a lord do when they lack something? Well, they make up by showing off even more so with the things they do have. And now as we move on, we make our way into the Lord's family cellar. And now this room is really meant to really look very warm and welcoming, inviting, and portray wealth. And now this room is built on an angle, and so I really did my best to make this space come off as natural as I could to really shape the room. I put this couch that sits at a slant here, as well as this little armchair here that sits right here in front of that cozy fire. And then back here we have this table that sits at an angle where again our servants can come and place food and drink for our noble family to partake. And here in the corner of the room we have some seating with a checkerboard. And for a little depth, I added this little table here with some things on it just to give the room a little bit more personality. And then back here we have this little desk area where our Lord can sit here and write and go over his ledgers while the rest of the family or invited guests are enjoying their time around the fire, or maybe they're reading a book or having a game of checkers going. I really think I did a good job at nailing this room. It feels natural to me. It has a good flow to the room, and I think that it came out really good. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on back. We're going to do a little bit of backtracking. And now we're going to go ahead and head to this door here. I kind of call this room here sort of like a throwaway room. It's not technically a bedroom, but the idea behind this room would be if a visitor came to the castle and maybe they didn't know the visitor or know who he was aligned with, but he didn't seem harmful in any way. So, maybe he needed a place to stay just for the night. So instead of giving him one of the nice luxury bedrooms that are generally reserved for higher ranking officials or people they would like to impress, they would give him this room and he would stay here. And as you see, right here is where he would sleep on this kind of bed thing here. And then he has a little table to keep some stuff. Maybe he can eat there because, this is a knightly family. They're a family of knights. So, they really believe in being chivalrous and really extending a hand to those in need or those lesser, especially even more so to those of the same rank or of a better stature. So again, in most cases, as long as the visitor doesn't seem a threat, they would afford him one night stay, and they would pretty much give him a room like this where he'll have a chest for his belongings right here. And then over here, it's just a little table, again, a place where he can just sit down and maybe eat there, because again, he wouldn't eat at their table. He would pretty much take his meals in here. So that's that. We're going to go ahead and move on and backtrack back. Backtrack, a lot of backtracking. So let's go ahead and backtrack back to the cellar. And now we're going to go ahead and head up this winding staircase here that'll take us to the second level of the castle. And so now we come to what appears to be a second cellar, and this is the cellar that would be designated for our guests. This level of the castle is where we'll find the first level of guest bedrooms. And again, we want to make sure our guests feel welcome and they feel like they're living in luxury, even though they're away from their own castles, but they're invited to this castle and they still get to have that same level of luxury, if not even more so. Because again, the Lord of Knightly Castle really wants to make a name for himself, and he really wants to, impress his betters. So he wants to display and put on and show that he's really important and he can afford expensive things. So we have this nice fireplace. Again, this design, it really helps in shaping the room. We have some nice seating around the fire as well as a table. So again, our servants can bring out food and drink for our guests when they're staying up here. And then we have this couch here, some more places to sit. And then we have that little area over there. And again, this room is just meant to just be a second kind of cellar for our guests. This is where they would spend their time during the day. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Now we come into the first room on the tour, or maybe the second, depending on which way you come up from on this level. But here, as you see, we have this nicely decorated room with this nice big double bed right here. And now the idea behind this room here, as well as the other rooms on this level of the castle, is that it is designed to accommodate other lesser lords as well as knights that might come to stay at the castle. So even though it is nicely furnished, it's not going way out of the way to impress its guests. And you see we have some cabinetry where we can keep some books here for our guests to read, as well as we have this nice little couch that sits right in front of our nice fireplace that's keeping the room all warm and cozy, as well as this kind of cabinetry right here where we keep where they can keep their clothing and have something to change into, as well as they have a little sitting area with a game of checkers where they can play. And then also one thing to note about this castle is we do have some arrow slits that face behind the castle. And, just in case that there were an invasion from the back, although I doubt there would be an invasion coming from the back because this castle sits right back against the ocean with a cliff. So it's very unlikely that anyone would be approaching the castle from this angle. But in case there were, we do have those arrow slits there to be able to fire out at them and defend this castle to a certain degree. So again, that's the first bedroom on our tour here. So let's go ahead and exit out. And again, this floor is meant to pretty much accommodate lesser lords, but it still has a level of luxury and beautiful design. And we have these little kind of end tables here with floral arrangements on them on each side of the door to kind of decorate it up a little bit and make everything look kind of pretty and cohesive. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and make our way into the next room on the tour. All right, now we go ahead and open the door here. And as we come into the next room on this tour, we have 2 beds in here. And now I like to think of this room as the captain of the guard and the housecarl's chambers for maybe when this room is not in use or accommodating a noble guest. As you can see, it's very communal with 2 beds, and we have this checkerboard right in the middle. So as when if this space was needed to accommodate a nobleman guest, then this space would become a place that him and his personal servant or squire would stay, whereas in that case our captain of the guard and our chamberlain would need to find someplace else to stay. And that was a quick shot of another arrow slit that we have going. So again, very generously decorated, but it's not too over the top. It serves its purpose, and it's no point in our need to really try to impress our guests that would stay on this level too much. So that's about it right there. So again, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on into this next area here. And now this area is kind of an interesting one, where this is where our guests could come and, you know, generally get clean and have a nice bath. And so this part of the castle kind of serves as a waiting room for our guests. So, you know, here we have cabinetries full of things that you would go in the bath to make that bath more enjoyable, maybe bath soots or whatever it may be. And then over here we have some towels so our servants can dry off our guests. So basically our guests would just wait in this room until our servants have drawn the bath and get it all ready to go. So now as we move into this area, we've come to where the actual bath time would take place. And as you see, we have these jars here where our servants would carry those in with hot water in them, and they would pour them in there to, you know, get that bath going. And then our guests could sit here in a nice warm bath and look at themselves in the mirror. One thing you guys will notice as touring this castle is that there are lots of mirrors in this castle. The inhabitants of this castle put a lot of value on vanity. So then over here we just have another little table with some stuff that may go in the bath to make it more enjoyable, as well as another arrow slit right there. But if we open this door, we step into here and we come to our privy on this level, or our garderobe. And from the last video or episode, I showed you guys what it looks like under this garderobe with that fly infested pile of manure. So that's that. And I think it's kind of practical to have something like a garderobe right here off the bath area, because, you know, after you're done doing your business, you may, you know, have some leftovers and you may need to get clean. So, you know, you go from there straight to the bath. So that's that. So again, let's go ahead and make our way into this area. And again, this is sort of like another kind of throwaway area where this room doesn't belong to anyone in particular, but it is a space where, you know, our guests can come and, you know, maybe write a letter, or, you know, just maybe sit here and just relax in this little corner. Or I would guess in some cases, if our noble guests may need to send a letter back to their own castle, they would probably be in the bath, and having someone sit there and record what they're saying to send it while they are in their bath. So again, this room is just located right under or right above that first room I showed you guys. So you guys can kind of see how the flow of the castle kind of works. I really do my best to really try to work on my castle floor plan layouts, and so that they flow and they make sense. And now that's it for this floor, I believe. So we're gonna go ahead and make our way up this spiraling staircase. And now the first thing you guys will notice, at least I hope you guys do, is this floor looks a lot more beautified and a lot more opulent. And that's intentional, because again, this floor would be the floor our most welcome and most high-ranking guests would stay. Distinguished guests like, say, the Lord of Roostenshire or the Lord of Lindiscliffe, or maybe even the king, where in that scenario, I think maybe this lord would give the king his personal bedroom and the lord would then sleep on this floor. Anywho, let's go ahead and continue on with the tour. We're gonna go ahead and open this door here and explore this next bedchamber. And as you guys can see, it's a lot more beautified. It feels a lot more welcoming than the previous rooms we've checked out thus far. With this nice fireplace here, same design, but with more ornate details. And we have a nice sitting area here for our guests to sit and play some checkers, as well as this table here where our servants can come and leave some wine or some food in their room for our guests. And then here we have a mirror so our guests can look at themselves and make sure everything looks in order and neat. And then we have a nice area where we're keeping our fancy clothing as well. So again, the rooms on this floor are really meant to just display that luxury and opulence. So let's go ahead and we're gonna move on to the next part of this castle. So let's go ahead and head down this hallway here onto our next room on the tour. So now we step into this area here, which is located and leads into our privy. Our garderobe's right here. As you see right here, you step down that, just like so. And now this is really communal because as you see, we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we got 4 openings for 4 people can use this at once. And now again, this would be very communal. It wouldn't be like just one person in here at once. And that's very accurate because I've seen many period pictures where it depicts many people on a castle garderobe at once. So I think that idea works for this setup as well. And so there you have, we have our garderobes here. And then if we look over here on the sides, here we have these rags hanging. So, you know, they have a place to grab and wipe themselves after they're done. And of course we have some flowers hanging to kind of freshen it up in here. Because yeah, with, you know, multiple people going at once, or just the fact that it's a toilet area, that it would probably smell pretty bad most of the time. So if we step out over here, again, we have this cabinetry where we have, you know, oils and just other things that can freshen it up inside the garderobe, as well as freshen themselves up after they use the garderobe. And then over here we have these kind of, I guess they're like sinks, so you know, maybe when they're wiping themselves they get a little something on their hands, so you know, they can dip their hands in here and wash their hands. And also they can wash their rags that they use to wipe themselves in this basin, and then just kind of hang them up and let them dry so it's ready for their next usage. Of course, the servants would be, you know, responsible for changing out that water and putting in fresh water, and also they'll probably be the ones who would, you know, clean the rags and hang them up to dry. And you know, that would not be a job that the Lord or his guests would particularly do for themselves. But I digress. Let's go ahead and check out this next room here. Now, as we step into this second very lavishly decorated bedchamber, I took the liberty to do something a little different. As you see, we don't have a fireplace in here, but what we do have is this wall kind of space heater. And the idea of this can be found, or I kind of take this inspiration from 2 places. One was from the game Kingdom Come Deliverance. If you ever had the opportunity or the chance to journey to Castle Talmberg, where the Lord Divish resides, in his personal bedchambers, he has something very similar to this in design. And also, I give credit to Vigoman. I remember way back he had a video where he had something like this, which made me think it'd be a cool idea to try to add that and try to change it up a little bit, because I'm always adding a fireplace. So yeah, so that's that there, our little space heater. And as you see in this room, we have a place to keep clothes as usual. We have some reading material up top on a little shelf, as well as this little place to sit and lounge and maybe play chess. And of course we have a nice bed right here, nice comfy bed with a chest at its foot to keep their valuables or their belongings and all that good stuff. And of course right here we have another mirror to view and check ourselves and make sure we're all put together before we leave our room. And then we have this little couch right here, where it can also double as a bed for maybe, say, our servant or squire that may be staying with this noble who comes to visit this castle. So again, you know, the noble will sleep in the bed there, and maybe his squire or servant, personal servant, will sleep there on that couch. So that's that. We're gonna go ahead and move on. And as we open this door here, we'll step into one of my favorite rooms here on the tour, which is the castle's library, or maybe the castle's conference room or something like that. And I really went for a really inviting, really cozy kind of feel. You can imagine the Lord and, maybe his invited guests sitting in here having a drink of mead or wine while they discuss matters and how he can, be promoted, or, just kind of make his way in the world to be more than just a lesser lord. And now I like to think also, like, if you picture it's a cold winter night, maybe it's raining, it's snowing, and it's cold outside, and then you're just, nestled away in this room on this comfy seating. I'm not a big fan of books. I do enjoy them, but again, I'm looking at this room and I would definitely think to myself, I would spend a lot of time here. And over here we have a table where, again, servants can bring in drinks and food for our Lord and his guests to enjoy while they're in here. And again, it's another room that's built on an angle. And again, I think I nailed the flow of it, and I think it came out really, really well. So we're gonna go ahead and close the doors to this room, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. And let's make our way over here to the last room on this floor. And if we pop these doors open, we come into the castle's, I guess, grand or main bathhouse area. And now I really wanted to portray a very intimate but yet still communal setting, with this large tub here in the center of the room, whereas it looks to be able to comfortably fit 3 to 4 individuals. And so while there may be ones enjoying the bath there, and over here we would probably have some having their hair brushed by a servant. And now, just to note, guys, there would not be anything lewd going on here. This isn't meant to be like a bathhouse brothel or anything, but more just so another luxury asset this lord could offer to his most intimate guests as entertainment. This is meant to be more like what we would think of in the modern day as a jacuzzi or pool party, whereas the added on bonus is getting clean at the same time. And so, over here, we have a place to play some chess, a place to sit when we're not relaxing in that hot, nice, warm bath. And here again, we have this nice heating device to help keep the room all nice and heated and comfy and cozy for the Lord and his guests. Because again, it's our Lord's goal to try to make sure that he accommodates and keeps his guests as comfortable as he possibly can and can afford. And by doing so, he makes sure that his guests are at want for nothing, and when they leave his castle, all they have are good things to say about him and his family. Because again, for a lord like this who's really trying to make a name for himself, or any lord rather, it'd be very important to portray that to your guests and make them feel like you're the type of person they would love to be in business with, they want to be close to, they want to be friends with, and so on. With the ideal end result is you becoming more wealthier, more powerful, and more respected among your contemporaries. So that completes the tour for this level. So we're going to go ahead and make our way up to the next and last floor where the Lord and his family actually stays. And now, the only way to gain access to their quarters is to head through this door, which puts you inside of that great tower, the one and only tower this castle has, right here. But before we go up to their quarters, I'm gonna go all the way down first, just to kind of show you guys where this tower kind of lets out at. So as we open these doors, we can see it lets out to here. And now some of you guys are probably thinking, this is obviously a design flaw. Like, why would I want to have or allow access to the Lord and his family's living quarters to be so easily accessed from the courtyard? And the thing about that is, if any enemies or attackers were to gain access to this courtyard, they have an idea that the Lord must live on the higher parts of the castle, but not knowing the castle's floor plan layout, they would not know where to go to even get to the Lord. And B, let's just say maybe it's a spy or someone that's betraying this Lord, and so they know exactly where to direct the enemy to get to their chambers. Now they would have to come in through here, and again, in medieval times, most people fought with their right arm, with that which was called their sword arm. So the way they designed these staircases were clockwise. So anybody approaching this castle or trying to make their way up could not use their sword arm to attack or defend. Whereas if you're defending this castle, meaning you're coming from this direction, your sword arm is free to fight off attackers. So that's kind of a defensive property of this type of build. And so imagine enemies trying to make their way up this stairwell while we have guards defending it, because this would be a heavily defended tower. They wouldn't make their way up, and they would have to go up quite a ways to be able to even reach the Lord's chambers. And so again, it's not actually a designed flaw, it's actually a smart and practical way of doing it, because not only would this be probably the most defended part in the whole castle, this tower here, but also, can you imagine how difficult it would be for an attacker to try to really fight his way up this tower to make it to the Lord in his living area? So anyways, we're going to go ahead and make our way up. And as you see, I tried to design these lookouts realistically. As you see, we have some field of view, a decent field of view where we can see out of them pretty decently. And so on. Here we go. Here's our Lord and his family's private chambers on this level, but we're not going to go there yet. We're going to go ahead and go up to the top of this tower just to stay on the subject of, defending the Lord and his family. We're going to go ahead and make our way all the way up here to where we come to this kind of I like to call it like a panic room, sort of like a spare area where, in case of, again, this is a smaller castle and it doesn't have as much fortifications, but in general, we would not be guarding this castle against, big military armies. It mostly act as a sanctuary from bandits, brigands, and thieves, and maybe smaller, lesser lords who want to attack us. But generally, this would be a place where our castle guards would usher our Lord's family, our important guests, up here, and pretty much just have them hide away up here until whatever assault on the castle is over with, if someone was to break in to the castle bailey. So just to make sure they protect the family in that way. And as you see, they have some beds here to rest, because maybe they would need to spend more than a day or so up here. They have a table where they can have their meals. And if we come over here, we have some beds for some guards, because again, they wouldn't just be left up here by themselves. Some guards, maybe 4 or 5 guards, would be up here just in case an enemy was to sneak his way all the way up here. They wouldn't just be ready for the slaughter. We would have some guards to try to protect their life. And again, I kind of created this with a look where none of the candles are lit. There's no food on the table, because again, they wouldn't spend much time up here. This would just be up here when they would need to hide away. Or maybe, if they wanted to ransom someone, they would put them up here. Because generally speaking, you wouldn't want to, treat the one that you captured that you would want to ransom bad. You would want them to have some level of luxury, so they are still worth something to the people you're trying to ransom them to. So there you have it. That's just that. I wanted to show you guys this. I kind of like the ideal of it. And we have this little stove here that also helps to keep the room warm up here, as well as some other things and storage and other stuff like that. So now that that's out of the way, we can make our way back down and finally check out the Lord and his chambers, his family's chambers. And now this video is pretty much wrapping up, guys. If you guys made it this far, I commend you. But we still got a little bit more to go, but we're getting there. So we're gonna go ahead and open this door, and here we have 2 doors that lead in from the tower into the Lord's chambers, or his living quarters. So as you guys can see, there's lots of accent wood, carved wood, very expensive detailings, and over here we have a suit of armor on display, and then on each side of it we have our castle's colors, our knightly family's coat of arms. And again, we have some other decorational pieces going on in this room. But we're going to go ahead and make our way out. As you see, it's very nicely decorated. Not too over the top yet, but it still looks very nice, I think. So we're gonna open up this door, and then we come to the first room on this level. And I like to think of this room as our Lord's son's room. And as you see, it's very nicely designed. He has a nice fireplace here. Again, that design to keep his room nice and warm. He has a place here to study and write. A chest here to keep maybe his sword and his other knightly belongings, as well as over here in this corner we have his suit of armor right here in this corner with the coat of arms hanging right next to it right there. And then we have over here we have this big beautiful luxurious cabinetry where we're keeping his clothes, and area right here where he can play some chess. I like to put this in all the rooms because generally speaking, if you have a chess board or a game of checkers, you are generally thought of as more richer in the Middle Ages. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And please forgive me if it starts to feel a little bit rushed. I'm just trying to get the video and move on a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and go into the next bedroom here. And this bedroom would be the lady of the castle's bedroom. And as you see, she has this big, pretty, area where she keeps her clothes with a mirror right there in the center, so she can brush her hair and look at herself and maybe apply her makeup or whatever they would have put on their face. She has a nice comfy couch right here where she can sit by her fire, as well as this double-sized bed where she has this kind of sitting couch bench thing at the foot of that. And then she has this big, pretty floral arrangement right there in the center of her room. And then this thing over here, if you guys are wondering, I did a little research on the internet of how medieval looms would have looked. And this was kind of the design I came up with here. So I did my best, but you know what? I think I did a really good job with this, and I really like how it came out. And I think the way it works is you would set the yarn or the string through there, and you would weave it through these pieces, and hopefully it'd come out looking like a rug or some clothing or something. And over here we just have an area where she can sit and work on that. And of course she has a little mirror there because, again, there's lots of mirrors in this castle because these people are really vanity focused. So we're gonna go ahead and close that door there, and we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next room in this castle. And so if we open these doors here, you guys can probably already guess what room this is. Every castle that could afford one would have had a chapel in their castle. And again, no less is of knightly castle. So this was probably originally not a chapel, but because our Lord wants to again portray that opulence, that he has wealth, he went ahead and converted what could have been maybe an extra room or something like that into a chapel for him and his family to have, so he can always, impress his guests. Maybe his guests can come here and also take part in the devotion of the morning or whenever they would have that. So that's that. And I think there's nothing much else to say about this room, so I think we can go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and close these doors here. And now we're gonna go ahead and head into this last door here on this level of the castle, and we come into the Lord's bedroom. And as you can see, he spared no expense on his own personal quarters. We have this little sitting area right here where he can play some chess. Again, he can invite up one of his guests and they can play chess in his room. He has this nice big comfy couch with this table here that sits in front of this fireplace where he can keep warm, and of course a mirror here. And then over here we have this table where our servants can bring in some food so our Lord can eat food in his room, as well as a place to keep some drink. And then if we come over here, we have a table for our Lord. Again, he can go over some work like his ledgers and make sure his finances are all in order because he spends a lot. And he has a chest right here where he probably keeps some gold and some silver pieces and stuff like that, because he doesn't have a personal treasury room or something, whatever you would call it. So maybe that's where he keeps his money that he does have. And of course he has a nice double-sized bed, and he has his suit of armor right there as well as in his room. So if he has to go off to war, because keep in mind he has to pay military tribute to the Lord of Roostenshire, who's given him this castle. So if he needs them on a moment notice, he can suit up and ride out to join whatever forces there may be. So yeah, so that's just something to note. And then over here is where our wardrobe is kept, where our Lord keeps all his nice and fancy clothes and shoes. And so that's just it. And as you guys can see, I really went for trying to create this room in a way where it flows well. And again, it's another room that's set on an angle. I didn't use too many pieces of furniture that was on an angle, but I still think I did a great job of showing the room and, you know, working with the angles I had. So we'll go ahead and close that door. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this level. But we did neglect to check out the servants' quarters, which is the lower part of the castle where the kitchen and, you know, stuff like that is located. So we're gonna go ahead and make our way all the way back down. And I know you guys are probably tired of coming up and down this staircase, but I promise this will be the last time for this video. So we're just gonna go ahead and move all the way out. We're gonna go ahead and open these doors here. Make sure we close that. So let's go ahead and go down these stairs here as well. And now we're gonna go ahead and head over here. And now we come to the lower part, or the servants' quarters of the castle. And we're gonna go ahead, close that door. And first thing we come into is the servants' dining hall. So they have this big table right here where the lower servants, or lesser servants, I should say, would come and they would take their meals and have their food, you know, and eat it here. But if we go ahead and move on and we come into this area here, and now I'm really happy with how this turned out, you guys. I did this whole thing on an angle, and I think it works really well, and the details I think are there. So over here we have this big stove, I guess, is where our meals would be prepared. Right here, as you can see, that steam is bellowing out. We have some stews and soups going right here, as well as we have some sausage hanging, and we have some fish and meat smoking, along with some other things that, you know, like maybe they're warming up some milk or cream here on the stove as well. And then right behind us, we have this big preparation table where the food that's already been prepared and ready to go is being set out. We have some cheese, we have some lamb, we have some chicken, we have some bread on this table, as well as some grapes and other things. And then we have some herbs and spices that are hanging up right above that table, where we can pick from that to add flavor, and we maybe throw it into some soup or stew that's simmering on the stove. Over here we have some veggies that, again, that goes into maybe our stews or vegetable soups that we are preparing for our guests here at the castle. And then if we make our way all the way over here, this is our bakery oven, or our baker's oven, as you guys can clearly tell. And if we come over here, we open that up, we can see we have some bread in there that's baking. And over here we have some fresh bread that just came out, so it's still kind of piping hot, it's steaming a bit. But if we come over here, and this is where the details come in, you guys. Right here we have some, as you guys can probably tell, is some flour used to make our bread. As you can see, it's, you know, a messy, some mess going on. We have some eggs there, and then we have these jars where maybe they hold milk or water used to help us when it comes to making our dough. We have some tools there to flatten our dough and to get it all ready. Right here, as you can see, we've already been working with our dough, and it's, you know, making a mess right there. And then right here we have our dough that's been flattened and rolled out, and now it's ready to go and be popped into that oven so it can bake up as bread. So we will go in there and, you know, just pop it in there, and we'll close that and let it bake. And so again, that's just a little detail to tell a story of how the bread is prepared in this castle. And then over here we have sort of like I like to think of it as a butter turner, you know. Best way to explain it is, if you guys ever see a butter turner, it kind of has like a wooden barrel where you have a turner where you stir motion to turn that butter. So that's what that is. And then here we have some knives, obviously for cutting and preparing meats and bread, whatever else, in this kitchen. And so yeah, you guys, I'm really happy with how this came out. I'm really pleased with it. I would say, as far as, you know, building this on an angle, this is probably my best work. I really don't do too many, you know, decorative pieces as far as furnishings and stuff like this, where I do it on an angle, and I'm trying to get better at that. So I think I did a good job of accomplishing what I set out to do here. And so we're gonna go ahead and make our way out of here. And now if we open this door, we come into the first of our servants' quarters. And as you see, it's very shabby, very modest dwellings. They do have this kind of room heater right here in the room, because they do need that to keep themselves warm and alive when they sleep at night. Being this low in the castle would get pretty cold, I would imagine. And of course, they got some simple little hay beds where they sleep on the floor. There, they have a little table where they can play some cards, and when they're maybe not working, when it's at the end of the day, when they're retired to their rooms. They have a chest here to keep their belongings. And then in the corner over there, they have a table where they can still sit and eat. And over here, there's just some more storage areas. And, very simple. Not much else to say about this room. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. And we're going to go ahead and open this door. And again, same deal. Pretty simple. They have a area where it keeps the room warm, which is very needed and very necessary. And they have a spot on the floor to sleep. They got some storage areas and a place where they can sit and eat. That's pretty much that. So go ahead and close that door there. We're going to move on into the next room. And this room is pretty much where the servants of this castle would take care of the dirty laundry and dirty clothes that the Lord's family would make. And again, this is right here. I like to think of this as a hamper of like dirty laundry right there. And then right here is like, all the different types of laundry that needs to be done that's just kind of piled over, and they'll grab from this and throw it in the bucket of hot water and just kind of clean it in there. And as you see, it looks like it's a place where laundry can be done, where we have these jars here where maybe detergents and ways of getting the clothing clean is kept, and they would put it in there and clean the clothes. And so that's that. Not much to say. And then in this room here is where we would hang up those clean clothes so they can kind of air dry. We do have a window up there to let in some fresh air. And then here is just where they would put up the clothes and, fold them up and put them up. You got to kind of think like a hotel where, when you need a fresh sheet or a fresh pillowcase, they would bring it up to you and they would take your old one and, take care of that. So that's what this is, So again, this is the laundry area, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the last part of this castle. And now we come into the castle cellar. This is where the castle stores its food and its wines, beers, meads, and such. So up here, we're going to go up this little stairs here. Let's go ahead and grab a light real quick. We're going to go back over here and grab a light so we can see a little better. All right, I think we have a light now. Yep. So we're going to come up here, and this is just an area where we makes it a little bit easier for us to grab our barrel of wine or mead. So, we will get that, and then, it will roll out, which will allow the next barrel to drop down in its place, which is just how, they're able to do this. So it makes it pretty simple. And then they will roll it down. We will roll it down this little ramp here. That way, it's a barrel of liquid, so it would be pretty heavy. So that would be the easiest way of doing it. So they would just roll it down that, and, they can move it up to the other parts of the castles as needed. And again, guys, just more storage of supplies and food around. Inside these little bags here, I like to think there's maybe grains or maybe dried meat like jerky or something like that. And, we got some, extra veggies that don't, fit in the kitchen that we keep down here as well as some cheeses up there, some eggs, and again, some cheese. We have them up there. And over here we have like this, small collection of wines, maybe vintage wines. Maybe they're gifts from other lords that this knightly family has served, and they were rewarded with a nice vintage bottle of wine or something like that. So yeah, we have that there. So again, guys, just, what you guys are used to seeing. Nothing, too out of the ordinary down here. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys, with the tour. And then we'll just go ahead and leave it at that. All right, you guys, there you have it. The tour of Knightly Castle. A bit of a longer video, but we stuck it out and got through it. So I hope you guys were able to enjoy that and maybe even pick up some building tips along the way. This was a really fun build and I really enjoyed trying to incorporate some of the world's lore into this build. But this is not it for Knightly Castle. I plan, if you guys remember from the first video where I mentioned that this lord was also given a small feat. So I plan on adding some small villages and maybe some farmlands and maybe even creating a moat around this castle's base so it has more of a fortified position, which I may or may not do on camera, but we'll see. So you guys will need to stay tuned so you don't miss any future videos. So as always, if you enjoy this type of content and would like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and also don't forget to turn on that red notification bell so again you don't miss any future Minecraft Conquest Reforged video. Also drop a comment down below. Again, it helps the channel to grow when you guys are interacting and liking the videos. It also shows me that you appreciate what I do, and also I really enjoy reading your guys' comments. And so I'll leave it at that. Until next time, this has been the Kinder Knight from Knightly Castle, and I bid you a farewell.